Good morning, friends. I am Dr. Ghanshyam D. Acharya, Principal, Atma Institute of Technology and Science, Rajkot. Today I am going to deliver a session on career choice as an NDT inspector. So many students have contacted me, and some of the participants are new for me. Let us begin our session with prayer.
सहना भवतु सहनो भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Now, this session is related to the career opportunity and for specifically NDT inspector. In this session, I have divided two parts. One is a career choice and another is related to the as an NDT inspector. In most of the time, when I contact with the students, I mainly focus on their future career, and I always concerned with their golden future. As this session is related to the NDT inspector, this session is very useful to mechanical engineering, fabrication technology engineers, metallurgical engineers, automobile engineers, even civil engineering. Now, first of all, what are the learning objectives? When we start with any topic, we should have an objective of that learning to develop awareness regarding careers. Now, when you are studying in professional program, every students are concerned with their future career, and when you want to think about the future career, we should start planning from first semester. That is one. To get aware about need of codes and standard. Now, this is the very important point. In most of the cases, students are not aware about the codes and standard, and that is the basic requirement of any industries. That is second. Third, to understand importance of quality requirement in product manufacturing and maintenance of plant. Now, there are major points related to the product quality, and when we talk about the quality, it is related to two parts. One is a quality of a human being, a inspector, and quality of a product. So, in today's world, we will discuss in detail what is the importance of quality of a product. Now, to fulfill the requirement of industries regarding high quality with low cost. Now, this is the biggest challenge for an engineer. Every time customers are expecting some innovative ideas, that is one. Second thing, you should give more and more good quality but lower cost. For that, you should have a very good knowledge about the material, processes and quality aspect. Now, for any engineers, if you are a educated person, as per my perception, this is the idea which I have floated during my session. Up till now, when I discuss with the participants or students or any training program, I connect with the KASH. Now, during 4 or 5 years, during my principalship, I have learned and add the V, that is value. Now, any educated person, when we say he is educated, he must have V into K into A into S into H. V stands for values. Now, if you do not have a values, you are no more useful to the society. Because first of all, society, market need a good citizen, and with the values you can have that good citizenship. Second, anywhere you go for your career choice, knowledge is very important. Next point, attitude. Without attitude, nobody can survive in current market. So attitude covers everything. Attitude covers your way of communication, your dealing, your approach, your way of working, your commitment. Everything is covers in a attitude. Next is a skills. Now today's current market is expecting skills persons, skills engineers. So during your study period, try to develop a skill sets which is more a requirement, which is very useful to the industries. Then and then you can survive in the market. This survival word, which why I am using, because without skills, there are lots of skills, but without skill you cannot get the job or you cannot make the good career. And last one is a habit. Now habit nowadays more or less connected with the corporate etiquettes. When we are studying in an institute and when you jump into the market, both requirement, both environment are completely different. Way in which you are working in institutions, you cannot work in industries. So try to focus on habit development, which is requirement of corporates. Now my learning during this last 4-5 years, at present I am working in Atmi Institute of Technology in Science, Atmi University. Up till now I am having idea of KASH, knowledge, attitude, skill and habit, but this university is more focusing on value and it is termed as a Jivan Vidya. Number of times when I advise to my students, sometimes you also feel or you will also have a question in your mind, okay, sir, you are advising us to learn something new and lifelong learning is very much important. What about you? So I have also learned about the values through Jivan Vidya. We will have a very different and very separate one session regarding on Jivan Vidya, but the main principle of this Jivan Vidya, which I have learned, is harmony with self, harmony with family, harmony with society and harmony with nature. Now what we experience today in market, COVID-19, the environment, these all four are very important for our career. If you are having a harmony with self, you can perform well. And when you get the support from your family members, you can perform very better. Also simultaneously you have to work in a society, you have to deal with the number of people, you have to work with customers, and you can also become an entrepreneur. Everywhere you should deal with the people. So you should have a harmony with society, and last, that is harmony with nature. Nowadays everywhere people are focusing on sustainability, green market, green revolution. So try to focus on sustainable issues of market. Now this is my slogan I have just put on my table. It is never say chal say to quality. It is related to the quality mindset. Now, as per my experience, quality mindset can produce quality product and quality services. For that, the general attitude of youngsters, chal se. Sometimes we are very casual. Okay, this is okay. We do not want to put 100% effort or to get the 100% good quality. But in current market situation is like that. If you want to survive, if you want to run your business, if you want to get a good career, you should just remove a chal se part, or you should not compromise anywhere in your quality. Now, I have just put one video which is related to the 100% perfection.
गलत फहमी की गुंजाइश मत रखना। 99% से काम नहीं चलेगा। एयरफोर्स में जिंदगी और मौत के बीच का अंतर इसी 1% का होता है। 100% फिट हुए बिना इस ग्रुप में से कोई फाइटर पायलट नहीं बनेगा। यह एक सख्त प्रोफेशन है और इसकी डिमांड्स भी सख्त हैं। अभी सख्ती नहीं बरतूंगा तो तुम्हारे खून से रंगेंगे मेरे हाथ, और मैं नहीं चाहता कि मेरे हाथ तुम्हारे खून से रंगे। मत भूलो, फाइटर प्लेन्स पर करोड़ों रुपए खर्च करता है हमारा देश। तुम्हारी ट्रेनिंग पर भी करोड़ों खर्च होंगे, पर आजादी की कीमत नहीं आंकी जा सकती। यहां उन्हीं की जरूरत है जो सिर्फ जीतने में विश्वास रखते हैं। फाइटर पायलट बनने के लिए सेल्फ डिसिप्लिन चाहिए। आधे सेकंड में डिसीजन लेने वाला चौकन्ना दिमाग चाहिए। इस ट्रेनिंग के बाद आप जो भी करेंगे दूसरों की नजरों में चमत्कार होगा, पर आपके लिए सिर्फ रोजमर्रा का डिसिप्लिन। दुश्मन के सामने आते ही यही डिसिप्लिन फौलादी इरादों में बदल जाएगा। बेस्ट ऑफ लक।
Wherever you work, you put your effort 100% and to get the 100% quality, good quality, because quality of yours and quality of product and quality of service is the only way out in current market. If you are 50% confident in your quality output, you are zero. If you are 75% confident about your output in quality, you are zero. Even if you are 99.99%, you are still zero. You should 100% perfect. You should 100% confident. Then and then you can able to get 100% good quality product. Why? Now we are dealing with manufacturing industries and manufacturing product. If inspectors is not putting 100% effort, any time, any vessel, any bridge can collapse. And this will affect, or this will create a fatigue accidents, or that this will create a accident in which you will find a problem with human being and problem with plant. So try to focus on 100% perfection. Now next is, if you want to make your career bright, stable and able. Now without stability you cannot have a ability. Now what type of stability you have to think? What type of stability you have to plan? First is financial stability. Looking to the current situation in COVID-19, 2 months there are shutdown in our industries or number of offices and everything, business. So if your financial stability is there, is good, then you can maintain your family. Second thing, relationship stability. Because when you are working in a industries, your family support is very important. Because your family is giving support to you, you can perform very confidently in a business or a industries or a job. That is a relationship stability. Third, physical stability. Today we are faces with COVID-19. After some time, some other problems are there. So first of all, we cannot blame anything. We should keep our health very sound. And fourth one is mental stability. If any circumstances you will find stress will destroy your mental stability, and it is also affect on your relationship. So you should plan about the 4 type of stability, and then you can able to perform very well in a market. Now next video is related to the Akshay Kumar, power of discipline. If you see this video, you will really get how this person is putting effort from morning 4 o'clock to evening 9:30. And by this way, he can get success at every place. So try to learn number of things, especially discipline in your day-to-day life, that will give you a success.
मैंने जब अपना करियर शुरू किया था तो मुझे सब बोलते थे, यार इसको सिर्फ एक्शन ही आता है, ही जस्ट नोज एक्शन, I always think a change is the most important thing in anybody's life. Every time anybody tries to put an image on me, I have always jumped to some other image.
To be honest, I have just been myself. Being yourself, that is an extraordinary thing.
जहां लोग दौड़ रहे हैं ना, वहां आप मत दौड़े। अपना अलग एक रास्ता बना लीजिए। अगर कोई नहीं आ रहा है तो कोई बात नहीं, आप अकेले हो जाइए, आप अपना अकेला कुछ करिए, कुछ ना कुछ सही होगा।
करियर को मैंने करियर नहीं माना है, मैंने अपना पैशन माना है। और जिस दिन किसी इंसान का काम उसका पैशन बन जाता है, उसके लिए फिर वो आंख बंद करके सारी उम्र भी लगा रहना, वहां से कोई उसको हिला नहीं सकता। I am waiting to get up in the morning and start working.
जब से मैं पैदा हुआ हूं तब से आज तक कि ऐसा दिन कभी नहीं गया कि मैंने उगता सूरज नहीं देखा।
My routine starts at morning 4 o'clock. यही एक मौका मिलता है 1 घंटे का 4 से लेकर 5 बजे तक, क्योंकि मैं जब अकेला रहता हूँ। And that is the best time when I think कि अब मैं क्या करूँगा। A person needs every day 1 घंटा तो कम से कम चाहिए खुद के लिए, जो वो सिर्फ सोच सके। उसके बाद 5 सवा 5 बजे कसरत शुरू करता हूँ, स्विमिंग करने चला जाता हूँ। 2 घंटे मुझे कहाँ अपने कसरत के लिए चाहिए।
I work 8 hours a day. 8 hours is good enough. But in that 8 hours, I am on the set. I don't move away from the set. I don't go sit in my vanity van. I sleep every day at around 9:30. हमारे यहाँ मैं देखता हूँ कि कितने लोगों को पेट की प्रॉब्लम है, मोटापा है। आप 1 घंटा नहीं दे सकते अपने शरीर को कसरत करने के लिए। 6:30 बजे के बाद खाने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है। आपका शरीर नहीं मांगता इतना खाना। देखो आपकी सेहत कहां से कहां पहुंच जाएगी। सिंपल थिंग है, सिंपल। दिस इज ऑल इन योर हैंड्स। योर हेल्थ इज इन योर हैंड्स। योर लाइफ इज इन योर हैंड्स। इट इज द मोस्ट सिंपलेस्ट थिंग। We make it very complicated.
Now, next point, quality is never an accident. It is always the result of intelligent effort. And this effort must be 100%. And this effort must be continuous. Now, in old timings, we can say jugaad. It's okay. Nowadays situation is very sensitive to every aspect, and there are lots of good instruments are available in market to maintain the good quality of a product. So simultaneously we should keep and we should focus 100% quality of our product. So it is not an accident, it is your own effort to get the good product quality. Now the most important point, do it right first time and every time. Now once we give the good result, good product quality, it is not a full stop. Every time we should give the good product quality and good services. Why? Because your good quality of product, your relationship with customer is very nice and you can run your business very successfully. Now, when we think about the career, again we should think about our current market. Now, especially I have just mentioned 1991. Why? Because the first revolution of our industries, industrial revolution, the new industrial policy introduced by our at that Manmohan Singh, it is LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization. Situation is completely different before 1991 and after 1991. Before 1991, manufacturer was the king and current market customer is the king. Second most important part is market becomes open. Open means any country can start their business in our India, and we can also establish industries in US, Europe or any other countries. So to survive competitive market, the quality is only a out. Without quality, you cannot survive in the market. Now, after LPG, the another word which we face, that is a VUCA word. Current market is very volatile, very uncertain, very complex, and very ambiguous. But we cannot blame to anybody else. We cannot blame the market. We should prepare ourselves to how to run our business or how to work in our industries regarding this VUCA word. Now, after VUCA word, now that is post-COVID-19. Now, situation is quite different in this case. So, I have just explained to you, there is one formula, C plus R is equal to O and C plus P plus R is equal to O, CRO and CPRO. Now, C stands for circumstances, which you have seen in market. Circumstances are continuously changing. It's a dynamic. Maybe whether it is a LPG, maybe it's a COVID, maybe it is a VUCA word. So circumstances are continuously changing. Now, if you react with these circumstances, you will get the negative result or negative output. Now, the second thing is a CPRO. Before you react any situation, any circumstances, pause yourself. If you pause yourself and try to focus on output, what output you expect from your behavior, from your reactions. Once you focus on it, once you think on it, your reaction will be changed into response. When you are responding in a very positive way to that circumstances, you will always get the positive output. So my friends, always just keep this thing in your mind. CRO plus CPRO. Situation is always dynamic. Circumstances are always dynamic. And in this dynamic situation, we have to work again and again. Now, industries expect a T-shaped professional. Means what? Means depth of knowledge. Now, only superfluous knowledge will not work. Now, in a current market, in a competitive market, you should develop a research and development attitude. By this way, you can just have a in-depth knowledge of any topic. And sometimes what problems we are facing in industries, at that time, if you want to go for root cause analysis, so if you are having in-depth knowledge, then and then you can have a better output. So, my friends, when you just prepare yourself in a market, just try to focus on experience. During your study, after your classroom institution timing, you just go to the industries for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, maybe 2 days in a week, maybe 1 day in a week, maybe 4 hours in a week. But you just exposed yourself to the market or industries and you can have better output or better confidence in you. Now, challenges and career opportunities. Now, there are 3 opportunities, 3 alternatives with us. One, we should go for job. Another, we have to start our business as entrepreneurs. And third is a higher studies. Now, if we just think about the current market, the manufacturing sector where we have to work as a NDT Inspector, it is about 6,000 crores of market and you should ready to contribute. Everywhere the contributors in industries or any place, they are always required. Now when you work in industries, when you go for job, always the industries experts or managers, they are expecting what you contribute to improve the quality of a product. What way you contribute in productivity improvement, what way you are contribute in a way of working. So try to plan, try to think in your contribution as anywhere when you are working at any place. Second one, it is estimated that there will be a highly shortage of skilled workforce in manufacturing industry, anywhere. I am not just telling about the manufacturing industries. Nowadays, skilled workforce have very big shortage. And try to develop your ability and try to develop skill in you, and that skill must be certified. With that skill, you should have a confidence. Next is the industries are looking for industries ready people. What do you mean by industries ready? Now industries, they don't have time to train you. So if you expose yourself during your study, the requirement of an industry, and you just try to get the on-job training, you can able to start your work when you join in a industry. So industry should not prepare yourself or prepare you by giving training. Think for continuous improvement. Wherever you work, just try to think way in which today you are working, next day try to think improvement in that process. So this is a habit you should develop. And last point, that is industries are seeking for high productivity with minimum wastage. Now this is another challenge which we are facing, or which industries are expecting from you. You have to improve the productivity and simultaneously minimize the. Now, basic requirement for NDT Inspector, the things which I am discussing with you, it is not a bookish information. Because I have spent 8 years in L&T Hazira for my PhD study, and more or less I have visited industries of Gujarat, almost all fabrication industries. Now, the information which I have got from the managers, field experts, and my senior students and alumni, from that communication, just I have noted down all these points. First is a knowledge of codes and standards. This is the biggest issue for any students, because industries is continuously or completely running on codes and standards. There are standard norms to produce a product and to inspect a product. So you should develop a knowledge about codes and standards. Second, self-confidence. And self-confidence, you should expose yourself by on-job training. Without on-job training, without exposed to yourself to the industries, you cannot develop your self-confidence. Next is the ability to convince the shop floor engineers. Now, this way you have to improve your communication skill. As an NDT inspector, when you suggest some defect, some problems in a product, the production people will not easily accept it. So, without creating any problem, try to convince the shop floor people regarding your way of communication and better communication skill. Lifelong learner. Every day the technology is moving very fast. Sometimes what we can say, it is an information explosion. And as per the Azim Premji, the information which is available at present, every 14 hours that information will be doubled. So with this information explosion, we have to ready to lifelong learning, continuous learning. Once you complete your degree certificate or degree engineering or any engineering program, it is not a full stop. Once you enter in a market, maybe as a businessman, maybe as an inspector, you should learn something new and you should start relearning next in a industries. Next is a ASNT level 1, 2 and level 3 certificate. For NDT inspector, these are the basic requirement, and level 3 person or expert can certify you as a level 1 and level 2. ASNT stands for American Society of Non-Destructive Testing. Now next is a problem solving ability. In our industries, every time, every moment, every morning, you will have a challenge. And if you can able to solve that problems, that is your requirement. So you should develop how to solve the problems at that moment. Now for that, first of all, you should have a very cool mind. And when you are having a cool mind, then you can have a better option with you. Next is the knowledge about materials and metallurgy. This I have observed number of times. Because this subject we have studied in initial stage of your study, third semester or second semester. So we are not putting more focus on materials and metallurgy. But looking to the current market, if you want to improve the productivity, if you want to cut down the cost, if you want to improve the quality, the knowledge of materials and metallurgy is very, very, very much required. And what I have observed, the person, the students who is having very good knowledge or better knowledge of materials and metallurgy, their success rate in market is very high, very, very high. So my friends, you try to focus on knowledge of materials and metallurgy. Next is a knowledge of automation and industries 4.0. Now, this is industries 4.0. More focus is on automation. So by industries 4.0, integration of different technologies, integration of different engineering branches. You cannot think only that I am mechanical engineering and I do not have idea about the robotics. I do not have any idea about the data science. I do not have idea about the computer engineering. Now you need to integrate electronics, you need to integrate automation, you need to integrate data science, you need to address the computer engineering. And then this is a new part which the current engineers, they have to work and they have to study related to the industries 4.0. And if you learn new things, the requirement is continuously changing. You can able to fit yourself in that industries. Next is a record keeping and paperwork. Generally, students are avoiding regarding paperwork or record keeping. But nowadays, every industries, every quality aspect, you should ready to give report with each and every product. Sometimes a 30 to 32 files, box files, you have to supply with one pressure vessel, one heat exchanger. So this is the another part, another habit every engineer should develop, that is a record keeping and paperwork. And record keeping, if you keep the record, that will useful to you in future also. And last is attitude and perfection towards the work. Without attitude, it is very difficult to work in industries or to run your business and to go for your higher studies. So try to focus on your attitude. And perfection, without perfection, there is no chance to work in industries. Now, few interesting facts. Industries expect skills and capabilities over and above your degree certificate. If you feel I am degree engineering, if you feel I am diploma engineering, I am having certificate, I am having 90% mark, I cannot say your 90% is useless, but your 90% can be useful if you are having a better skill and better capabilities in you, which solve the problem of industries. So still I am advising, I am suggesting, I am just giving you instructions. Try to focus on your skill part and that skill which is requirement of the industries. Now next is you must have a knowledge of codes and standards. Repeating again and again without codes and standards, you cannot work in the industry. Youngsters should ready to move out of the comfort zone. This is the most important point. If you are not ready to move from comfort zone, you cannot learn anything. Your level of confidence cannot be improved. I have just discussed in detail in next slide. Keep your mind cool and ready for hard work 24/7 to achieve the success. Number of time, if you are not getting the result which you are expecting, at that time you are having a stress. And sometimes youngsters are depressed. Now this is not a good habit, or we cannot say good habit, but it is not good for any professional person or any human being, not professional, any human being. You just try to think how to solve this problem or how to move from these issues, because for every problem there is always one solution. So for that you should not just have a short temperament, just think in a very cool mind and find out the solution. Now these are the all career opportunity for 10 plus, 12 plus with ITI. You can become operators with ASNT and ISNT level 2. Any diploma engineer, degree engineer, UG, PG and PhD with level 3. They becomes NDT Inspector, Quality Control Manager, Application Experts, Trainer, Research Scholar, Marketing Engineer and Consultant and Entrepreneur. So this is a very vast area if you focus yourself on this NDT part. Now if you feel, okay, I am again and again putting focus on codes and standards. But why I am focusing codes and standards? Because without these you cannot have a better option, not having a better golden future. So this is a list for ASME section 1 to ASME section 11, B31.3. So everything you should keep in mind, and especially for NDT we need two codes and standards. One is ASME section 5 and another one is ASME section 8, American Society of Mechanical Engineering. Now section 5 you can have just idea about the requirement. Procedure standards, you will get the procedure standard from ASME section 5 and acceptance standard of defect from ASME section 8. I have described with article 6 and appendix 8. So these are the different articles and appendix for your reference, which you have to learn by heart. Now at least you should have idea where I will get this information. I cannot say that you should have, you should memorize everything, but you should have an idea that this thing is available at this place. This is the front page of ASME section 5 and ASME section 8. Now, we are also having, Atmi University also having different facilities of non-destructive testing. We are having LPT, we are having ultrasonic testing, and we are having magnetic particle test. And we are also running a special course to train our students with certificate. And with this certificate, the opportunity of job is very high. So when you appear for the interview and somebody asks a question or interviewer asks the question, in which area you are powerful or confident, you can able to speak regarding this area. Okay, sir, I am having knowledge about the NDT. And especially when you are having a knowledge about NDT, simultaneously you are having idea about the all 5 major processes. Now, the part which I have discussed with you, that is move out from your comfort zone. Now, when you are sitting or very comfort in a comfort zone, you cannot move out because you are having a fear. Once you move out, you can just overcome your fear. Your learning zone will start. And once you move from your learning zone, your growth zone will start. So, for your own growth, you just move out from your comfort zone. Now, somebody just give you a chance to work at site, or sometimes they will offer you to work in a Bangalore, or if you want to work in a US. And certain times, students are getting chance to train immediately after completing their study in institute. You have to train yourself in Japan. So you should ready to work. What type of problems you are facing? Just you are young, you can able to solve all this type of problem. So if you move from your comfort zone, your growth is very nice in current market. Now, what is the learning objective of this NDT process or NDT inspection procedure? Need of employability skills for NDT inspector. Now, when you want to go for NDT, the job of NDT inspector, the first and foremost, that is the employability skill, which I have discussed with you, your attitude, your skill. This employability skill, your communication skill, these are all in foundation. And this employability skill, you have to develop with your own self, because nobody will just teach you, nobody just give you the guidance about how to develop attitude. But just try to observe, try to discuss with the experts and seniors and alumni, and try to focus on it and try to develop that attitude. Develop awareness regarding career opportunity. There are lots of opportunity in market. Lots of jobs are available in market. But first and foremost point is you have to fit in the requirement of market. You have to develop your skill which is required by the market. You should industries ready engineers. Next is a developed mindset. I can do it. What it indicates? It indicates your self-confidence. Number of time when I was just working in industries, at the time of recruitment, what they expect, at least you should have a confidence and you can able to take decision. Maybe your decision is right or wrong, but at least you should ready to take decisions. So if you have a confidence, if you feel it, that type of spirit, I can do it. Sir, any problem is there, I can solve it. You just give me guidance, you give me direction, I can able to solve it. That is second, next point, the understand basic principle of NDT, that part we have to think, we have to learn. Study importance of codes and standards related to the NDT. Again, I am repeating the same thing in codes and standards. Now, what is NDT? The word itself, non-destructive test. So, when we test any product, we should not destroy that product. Because if we just take example of a pressure vessel, if we take example of heat exchanger, the size of pressure vessel and heat exchanger about 9 meter length and 3 to 4 meter diameter. So if we have a destructive testing, which is not possible. So quality is always required, and for quality, we need a non-destructive test. That's why we have to learn these things. And the method of quality control of material without impairing their aimed use. So we should not destroy the property. Now, why NDT is required? First and foremost thing, I am again and again repeating the same thing regarding quality. To get the quality product, we have to test any product with NDT. Now, safety during service, quality for service, reliability in service of industrial product. So these are the three things which we have to keep in mind. Now, what are the applications? Now, the general applications, we have to identify the defect. Maybe it's a planar defect, maybe it's a sinkage defect or gas porosity, everything. So in a product, there are 4 major defects which we cannot allow in a product. First is a lack of fusion. Second one is lack of penetration. Third one is a porosity, and fourth one is a crack. I am just discussing about the weld defect. These are the four major defects which we cannot allow, because with this defect, anytime this vessel will have a problem, and vessel have a problem is a problem with plant and problem with persons working in that place. Now, these are the major non-destructive testing method. Now, another point which is related to the NDT, it is generally just named with two alphabets. One is a UT, UT stands for ultrasonic testing, RT stands for radiography technique, VT stands for visual testing, PT stands for penetrant testing, MT stands for magnetic particle testing, and next one is a eddy current test. Sometimes it is termed as a 5 big brothers or 6 big brothers, and these are very commonly used in market. Now, when we want to select a non-destructive testing methods, so these are the selection criteria. If you want to identify surface defect, you should go for visual and liquid penetrant test. If you want to go for near surface defect, you go for magnetic particle and eddy current test up to 5 mm. And subsurface defect, you just go for radiography technique and go for ultrasonic testing. Now, this is a general part, penetrant testing. Before penetrant test and after penetrant test, you can have a picture. These are the picture of surface. Now, this, if we just think about the principles of liquid penetrant test, it has a reverse capillary action in LPT is a basic principles. So, capillary action, which we have studied in 4th standard and 5th standard, this is a reverse capillary by which we can identify the defect. Now, this is the procedure of liquid penetrant test. Now, the important point which I have discussed regarding record keeping, in this case, when we discuss about the procedure, your ability, your skill is like that. Before you carry out any NDT process, you should note it down the procedure on paper. Which type of instrument you want to use, how much time you have to use, what atmosphere you have to keep in mind, everything, smallest thing you have to put on paper. Then and then, once you approve your process, by good process, your end product or your end result is always appropriate and right quality. So, the record keeping or ability to write a procedure from codes and standards, the simple, write down the simple procedure, simple step will not work. You should thoroughly refer the codes and standard, ASME section 5, and then you should collect the details from that codes and you should write it down on paper, and you have to approve this procedure, and then you should carry out the process on product. Now, for that, just I will show you the video.
Dye penetrant examination is an important method of non-destructive testing of materials. This is the basic principle. Often the surface of a workpiece is covered with rust or paint, which masks the material defects, as shown in the sectional view. Therefore, the first step is always the pre-cleaning of the test piece surface. This must be done very thoroughly so that any defects present, here it is a crack, are open to the surface. In the second step, the penetrant is applied to the test piece, usually red-colored low-viscosity oil. Due to the penetrant's high surface wetting capability, it penetrates into the defects and cracks. After several minutes of dwell time, the third step is to rinse the part's surface cautiously with water. The water removes the penetrant completely from the surface, but leaves it in the crack. Now, the fourth step. After drying the test piece, a developer is applied onto the surface. The developer is a fine-grained white powder suspended in a liquid. It forms an even coating on the surface. After drying, it draws penetrant from the crack out onto the surface. The location of the crack is indicated clearly on the surface. And this is how it is carried out in practice. We wish to inspect two samples, a segment of a worm gear shaft and a broken bicycle crank arm. Both test pieces have already been cleaned. First in line is the worm gear shaft. The material tester applies the penetrant. After a dwell time of about 10 minutes, she removes the excess penetrant from the surface by rinsing the test piece gently with water. She takes care not to rinse for an unnecessary long time because the penetrant is supposed to stay in the defects. Now she dries the surface of the sample with a cloth to absorb the excess water. As the final step, she applies the developer and lets it dry. That's it. Several cracks are indicated on the surface in deep red color. Next, the broken bicycle crank arm has to undergo the dye penetration test. Spraying with penetrant, allowing to soak, rinsing, drying, and applying developer. Clearly, additional cracks are indicated on the fragments. Finally, the pros and cons at a glance. Advantages of this test method are: almost all materials can be tested, and the method is simple and low cost for a single inspection. Disadvantages are: only suitable for surface defects. No information about the depth of flaws can be gained, and rough surfaces are difficult to test.
Now, next is steps. Now, for everything which you have observed in all 5 steps, as per the codes and standards, the drying time is 2 minutes, dwell time is 10 minutes, and drying time is 3 minutes. This is also mentioned in codes, and then you will get the good result. Now, next point, there are 6 techniques of penetrant test, and there are non-fluorescent and fluorescent technique: water washable, solvent removal, and post emulsifying. And this way we can have a different LPT technique. Now, the penetrant testing, what are the major advantages? The major advantage of is like that: high testing speed, and it is very easy and economical. Next is very economical. Next, the high sensitive to the defect. Now you can have a better result, better identification, and very easily and economical you can have a idea. We are ready to use that process, but for that process we can identify surface defect only. Now this is the picture of penetrant test. Depth of the indicators not revealed because it gives the surface defect only. Now the surface condition. Before we test with liquid penetrant test, the first and foremost point is cleaning of surface. Here you see the grease layer is there. With grease layer you cannot carry out the LPT process. So first of all, cleanliness is always required. Now next is the temperature under which we have to work. For that, the temperature range is 10 degrees centigrade to 52 degrees centigrade. Otherwise, the liquid which we are using, it will not give the better result. Now, some of the limitations of this: porous material cannot give defect identification in LPT. Here, we have mentioned all this material. Now, defect invisible to eye and defect visible to eye. This is the another method, that is magnetic particle testing, MPT. Now, number of time in our childhood we have used the magnets and with small dust of iron, and way in which we are using on paper and try to get the different shapes. The same principles we are using over magnetic particle test. The same procedure I am not repeating again, but I am just focusing one more point. Again, this procedure we should write on paper, we should approve this procedure, then and then we should go for carry out the magnetic particle test on product. Now, you will get a very good information with this video, magnetic particle test. Now, you see the principles.
Non-destructive testing, magnetic particle inspection. The magnetic particle examination is an excellent method to investigate near-surface defects in ferromagnetic materials. This video shows the basic principle and the practical procedure. The material tester gets the machine ready for use and inserts the test piece between the two poles of an electromagnet. Then she takes a bottle with a suspension of magnetic particles, turns on the electromagnet with a foot switch and applies the suspension of magnetic particles onto the test piece. Already in daylight, dark lines are visible on the surface. The lines can be seen much better under ultraviolet light, and particularly well at darkening the daylight. The suspension contains pigments that cover the magnetic particles and fluoresce under ultraviolet light. The particles run off in areas free from defects, and they are attracted and clustered near defects. This workpiece shows a whole array of cracks. The basic principle is to magnetize a ferromagnetic workpiece parallel to its surface, as shown in the sectional view. If the workpiece is free from defects, the magnetic field lines run within the workpiece and parallel to its surface. In places of magnetic inhomogeneity, for instance near cracks, the magnetic field lines will locally leave the surface and a leakage field occurs. Now, if a suspension of ferromagnetic particles is applied onto the test piece surface, the magnetic particles will run off at defect-free areas. In places of leakage fields, the magnetic particles are attracted and clustered together, thus indicating the place of the defect. The method works best using a pigment which covers the magnetic particles and shows fluorescence under ultraviolet light. Even cracks can be detected that are not open to the surface but just below it, as long as they are not too far below the surface. But one precondition must always be fulfilled. The magnetic field lines must be perpendicular, or at least at a certain angle to the defect. Otherwise there will be no leakage field and the defects remain undetected. Our test sample has been magnetized in horizontal direction. The magnetic field lines run horizontally. This is the reason why cracks in vertical direction are visible particularly well. To make sure to detect all near-surface cracks, one has to magnetize the sample once more and best perpendicularly to the first time. To do this, the material tester switches the machine over to the current flow method. A high electric current flows through the sample, generating a circular magnetic field. Now the cracks in horizontal direction can be seen very well. The tested sample is a hardened sliding guide. The cracks have been formed during the hardening process and the subsequent grinding operation. Still another test piece has to face the magnetic particle inspection, a section of a large gear wheel. The same procedure again. Placing the gear wheel between the magnetic pole pieces, magnetizing and applying magnetic particle suspension. Already in daylight, there are indications of cracks, and again, they are best visible under ultraviolet light while darkening the daylight. The visible cracks are so-called fatigue cracks. They have been generated during the operation of the gear drive due to a mismatch of the gear wheels.
Now, before we go for magnetic particle test, we should magnetize the product. Now, when we magnetize to the product and then we just flow magnetic particle on job, that would gives different types of spacing. Now, this spacing, we cannot say that you can easily identify the defect. It requires lots of experience, and sometimes the students are having level 2 certificate, but level 2 certificate is not enough. Simultaneously, you should have enough skill, and you will get the skills through more and more practice. And second one, related to the skill, we should have thorough knowledge of codes and standard. So this type of defect indication is there in magnetic particle test. Now, there are two types of technique. One is a dry technique, another one is a wet technique. Again, these are the four techniques are there with AC and DC, longitudinal and circular, and same way is what are the magnetized technique. When we want to go for a magnetic particle testing, we should first magnetize the product which we want to test. And the most important part, after completion of the testing, we should demagnetize our job. This is, there are three other techniques by which non-fluorescent and fluorescent dry methods and wet methods we can use used in magnetic particle test. Now, what are the advantage? Near surface defect we can identify in magnetic particle. In a liquid penetrant test, surface defect we can identify, but in a magnetic particle test, subsurface defect we can identify. Now, next point is very economical. When we work in industries, the economical aspect is most precious and most important. But simultaneously, it should give the good result or identification of a defect by which we can maintain the quality of product. Now, next is a good speed. Now, another limitations of magnetic particle testing, it cannot be used non-magnetic material. You cannot use this process on stainless steel or wood. It can be only used on carbon steel material because it is a magnetic material. Here again limitations, demagnetization, which I have already discussed with you. Demagnetization is required, depth cannot be revealed, and suitable only defect which nearer to the subsurface. Now, radiography test. Radiography test is termed as a RT. Now, radiography test is divided into two. One is a X-ray and another one is gamma rays. So, all this process, different gamma rays process, we have to use different types of sources, and generally in market, iridium 192 and cobalt 60. And sometimes when you appear for the interview, the interviewer will ask which type of source you are using. Now, iridium 192, the second question people will ask about his half-life. And half-life of iridium 192 is 75 days and cobalt 60 is half-life is 5 years. Now, the very common question sometimes people will ask, how to measure strength of your source? We have already learned in 8th and 9th, the strength of that source is unit is Curie, because it is invented by Madame Curie. So that part we have to keep in mind. It's a very simple question. Now, for X-ray, there are two types of X-ray. One is the industrial X-ray and another one is medical X-ray. Number of time, we have just observed the fractured bone X-ray of our relatives. We are trying to identify some problem, but it is very difficult. Doctor can judge in a very better manner. It is very difficult for us to judge the problem in X-ray. So this is basic principles. Now in this radiography test, the most important point which I have to discuss with you, just you see the things first. This is very unsafe unsafe non-destructive testing method.
Using Powtoon.
It has lot many benefit, but we have to handle this radiography testing method in a very careful manner. There are different types of films are there, slow speed films, but this film gives good RT sensitivity. Medium speed, medium RT sensitivity and fast speed film give the less sensitivity result. So, but simultaneously the exposure time is different. So when we need any fast result, we can just have a different idea. Now again, regarding the issues related to the product quality or defect, identify defect in a product, at that time the thickness of a job plays a very vital role. So this table gives you the idea about the for which thickness, which type of film we have to use and which source we have to use. Now RT film, this is a planning of radiography technique testing and film is just put behind the weld joint. This is a, but any general person cannot test any defect or product with radiography technique. He must be a trained person. Now advantage of RT film is a permanent, it has permanent record, which is very important when you want to discuss with third party inspector. Second one, two-dimensional image you can have through RT inspection film. The most important point is that operator dependence is minimum as each film is qualified with penetrometer. Now there are two types of penetrometer we have to use. These penetrometers give the idea about the quality of your shot or radiography technique. One is a wire type penetrometer and second is hole type of penetrometer, and you have to select this penetrometer as per the standard codes. Now the next important point, you can just have a RT technique or RT methods with distance or from long distance you can just have a radiography technique. So evaluation of weld is possible at a distance place away from job location. And when you start your camera, you should away from the operation. Next is limitation of RT. The very most important point is unsafe temperature, pressure and humidity which affect the film of radiography testing film. So that we have to store that film in a very safe place. Again limitations, indicators confused with indication like slags, lack of fusion. Why confusion is there? Because we don't have enough exposure or enough training to interpret the defect. So that's why when you want to identify a defect on RT film, you just go through 1000, 2000 film interpretation. Then and then you can confidently identify the defect. Now, let us discuss the last method, that is ultrasonic testing, which is termed as UT. Here in this ultrasonic testing, sound wave is used to identify the defect. Here you see the three important points, that is three important components. Flow detector is required, transducer is required, and weld is there. Now, if you find any defect, you can easily identify or easily you get the response in flow detector. Now, the another important point which you see, the red line nearer to the transducer, it is a couplant. Without couplant, you cannot do the better way of ultrasonic testing. So, with the help of couplant, you can remove the air in between transducer and weld metal's surface. Now, what is ultrasound? Ultrasound is a frequency range normally employed in ultrasonic testing is 100 kilohertz to 50 megahertz. It is a ultrasound, and this ultrasound is used in ultrasonic testing. Now, here some basic principle is there. Properties of sound waves, lambda is equal to V by F. Lambda is equal to wavelength, V is equal to material sound velocity, and F is frequency. So, when you want to learn about the ultrasonic testing, I always guide the students, you should have a very basic fundamental knowledge of physics of 12th standard or 10th standards. If you are having a basic knowledge of fundamental knowledge of physics, you can understand in a very better way ultrasonic testing. Now, for ultrasonic testing, the transducer is used. Now, this transducer is piezoelectric principle which converts electrical energy to mechanical energy in the form of sound, and this sound will helpful to identify the defect. Now, these basic principles you can learn through this video of ultrasonic testing.
It is possible to investigate whether there are discontinuities under the surface using ultrasonic sound waves. Ultrasound has such a high frequency, people cannot hear it. The vibrations can, however, be measured with sensitive measuring equipment. Using this storage vessel, a weld is checked for internal discontinuities. First, the object being examined must be cleaned and free of any material that may interfere with the exam. Simply said, it works as follows. Sound waves are transmitted into the material with the transducer, and an echo is sent back from the rear wall or discontinuity. By registering this echo, we can deduct the thickness of the material, or if a discontinuity is present. In case of a discontinuity, sound is echoed back faster. Thus, we can see if the material wall is thinning, for instance by corrosion. The examiner first applies a contact fluid to enable the ultrasonic feeler to make proper contact with the material. This bonding layer serves to conduct the sound waves into the material. Without the contact fluid, they would immediately bounce back from the surface. A transducer converts an electronic signal into ultrasonic sound waves. It can both send and receive. The ultrasound equipment captures the reflected waves and converts this into a visual signal. This enables the examiner to see whether there are any discontinuities. If there is an indication, the exact location can be determined using calculations.
Now, what are the advantages of ultrasonic testing? It is very high sensitive and superior penetrating power. So, when you want to go to the identify the defect in the weld, middle of the weld, this is the best method by which you can identify the defect. Now, greater accuracy. Now, when we work with any process, NDT methods or technique, we expect the better accuracy, and better accuracy gives the better quality of a product. Now, another advantage is automation is possible, which we have discussed in the objective of our learning, what we have to learn about the automation and Industries 4.0. Now, Industries 4.0, every process which we are using up till now, it is all manual. Now, this manual process gradually it is converted in automatic or automation, and it is more in Industries 4.0. Another point is non-hazardous to personnel. Now, the things which we have studied in radiography technique, it is most hazardous to personnel, but here in this ultrasonic testing, it is non-hazardous process. Next is only one surface need to be accessible, volumetric scanning ability and portability. You can just have a non-destructive testing in your plant at any place, or if you are an entrepreneur and if you have a company, you just carry out this ultrasonic testing machine or equipment at any site. So this is the portability is the most important point or benefit of ultrasonic testing. Now, limitations. The things which we have discussed to identify a defect, it is not easy for everybody. Still, we need experience. The things which we have discussed in all methods, identification of a defect needs a lots of exposure and experience of identification defect on different component or RT film. Now, parts that are rough, irregular in shape, very small and thin, non-homogeneous, that will not be detected these ultrasonic testing methods. So, we have to polish and have a good finish of a surface. Next point which I have discussed in past, that is a couplant are required by which we can remove the air in between transducer and job surface. And last is reference standards are required. For everything non-destructive testing, we need a reference standard, and especially for ultrasonic testing, always we just think first reference standard, then we just carry out the ultrasonic testing. Now, for further reading, it is a very brief, or I can say it is a spark to non-destructive testing field. When you want to work as a go for operator, the things which I have discussed about the employability skill and fundamental basic principles of different testing methods. But simultaneously, if you want to study more, these are the different links by which you can have a better exposure of different non-destructive testing methods. And these are the books available on Google. These are the different books. These are the 8 just specimen I have just put, but there are lots of materials available in market, but every student should ready to read and ready to interpret. Thank you. Now, looking to the current situation, let us have a national anthem when we want to develop our career. There are a lot other people who are working with us they are working in the society market. They are having lot many limitations, lot many issues, lot many problems. And what we have just experienced in COVID-19, we are saluting our doctors, police staff, paramedical staff, cleaners, everybody. And we just salute with this national anthem. And this is a very typical national anthem. You can really feel it by your heart. Thank you very much again for listening me in a very calm and cool manner. Thank you.